Have you ever woken up in the morning, swung your legs off the bed, and felt as though your joints had rusted overnight? That familiar stiffness, the dull ache that seems to greet you before the sun does, can make even the simplest tasks feel like climbing a hill. Now here's the twist. Many people do everything right. They take their medications, they stretch, they stay active, and yet the swelling lingers like an unwelcome guest. What if the culprit isn't in your joints at all, but hiding right on your plate? I'm Dr. Brian, and welcome to Channel Wellness Blueprint Over 50. Today we'll uncover the hidden foods that quietly fuel arthritis swelling, foods that seem harmless but actually fan the flames of inflammation. And by the end, you'll know how to replace them with choices that love your joints back, offering real relief and hope for freer, more comfortable movement. Let me tell you about a gentleman I worked with named Harold. He was 68, a retired school bus driver with a laugh you could hear across the waiting room. But for years, Harold dreaded mornings. His knees felt swollen, his fingers stiff, and even gripping his morning coffee was a battle. He tried anti-inflammatory pills, over-the-counter rubs, and gentle stretches, but the relief was always temporary. One day during our conversation, I asked him to walk me through what a normal day of meals looked like. Breakfast was often bacon and eggs, lunch a ham sandwich, dinner maybe a steak or pork chops. In between, he'd snack on pepperoni or cold cuts. To Harold, these foods felt normal, even comforting. But what he didn't realize was that every bite was quietly stoking the fire in his joints. So what makes processed and red meats such a hidden villain for arthritis? It comes down to the chemistry happening inside the body. Imagine your joints as hinges on a well-loved door. When treated kindly, they swing open smoothly, almost effortlessly. But if you start pouring sticky sludge and grit into those hinges, the movement becomes creaky, resistant, and eventually painful. That's exactly what these meats are doing inside your joints. Processed meats, think bacon, hot dogs, sausages, and deli slices, are loaded with saturated fats. These fats trigger your immune system to release chemicals called cytokines. Now, cytokines aren't all bad. They're part of your body's defense system. But too many cytokines act like overzealous guards who can't tell friend from foe. They attack indiscriminately, sparking inflammation. And if you already live with arthritis, that inflammation tends to settle right where you feel it most: your knees, your hands, your hips. Red meats like beef, pork, and lamb carry their own baggage. Not only are they high in saturated fats, but they also produce compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs for short, especially when cooked at high heat through grilling, frying, or broiling. Think of AGEs like tiny shards of glass circulating in your system. They damage tissues, create oxidative stress, and inflame the delicate cartilage that cushions your joints. Over time, the wear and tear add up, leading to more stiffness, more swelling, and more pain. Now here's something fascinating. Research backs this up. A study published in Arthritis and Rheumatology found that people who ate less red and processed meat had significantly lower levels of C-reactive protein, or CRP, a well-known marker of inflammation in the body. Lower CRP meant less joint pain and stiffness, and many participants noticed improvements within just weeks of making dietary changes. It's remarkable how quickly the body responds when given a chance to heal. And it's not just the meat itself. Processed and red meats are often paired with other inflammatory culprits: white bread buns, sugary sauces, fried sides. It's like a triple punch to your system. Harold realized his bacon wasn't just bacon. It came with white toast, sometimes slathered in margarine, and often a glass of orange juice loaded with sugar. By lunchtime, that ham sandwich came with chips and a soda. Each meal was layering inflammation on top of inflammation. But here's the hopeful part. Small swaps can make a big difference. I encouraged Harold to start slow. Instead of bacon at breakfast, he tried a veggie sausage. Instead of ham sandwiches, he explored hummus and roasted vegetable wraps. At dinner, he swapped steak for grilled salmon, seasoned with lemon and herbs. Within a month, he returned to my office with tears in his eyes, not from pain, but from relief. He said, "Doc, I never thought food could change how my knees feel, but I'm walking easier. I can play catch with my grandson again." You see, healthier proteins aren't about deprivation, they're about liberation. Wild-caught salmon, Skinless chicken breasts, lentils, beans, and even hearty mushrooms provide protein without fueling the fire. Think of these foods as the oil that smooths your hinges instead of the grit that grinds them down. They nourish your muscles, protect your joints, and reduce inflammation rather than amplify it. I often remind my patients, you don't have to quit red meat overnight. This isn't about rigid rules. It's about mindful choices. Maybe it's swapping beef burgers for portobello mushrooms once a week. Maybe it's choosing lentil soup instead of pork stew on a chilly evening. Every small step moves you toward relief. Your joints don't measure perfection, they measure progress. And here's another truth. You deserve food that loves you back. Food should not only satisfy your taste buds, but also support your body's freedom to move, bend, and embrace life without pain. When you begin to look at each bite as either friend or foe to your joints, you empower yourself. Suddenly, you're not a passive victim of arthritis. You're an active partner in your healing journey. So the next time you're tempted by that sizzling steak or crispy strip of bacon, pause and ask yourself, is this meal fueling my pain or feeding my healing? Your joints are listening, and with every better choice, they'll reward you with more ease, more comfort, and more life. A woman named Lorraine once sat across from me, a 72-year-old grandmother with the kind of gentle smile that made you feel instantly at ease. Yet behind her smile was exhaustion. She told me her hands felt swollen every morning, so much so that she struggled to hold a pen to write birthday cards for her grandkids. She had begun to avoid baking with them because stirring the dough hurt too much. What struck me was that Lorraine didn't smoke. She walked every day, and she had been careful with her weight. On the surface, she was doing everything right. But as we peeled back the layers of her daily routine, the hidden culprit revealed itself: sugar. Her mornings began with a blueberry muffin and orange juice. Lunch might be a sandwich on white bread, sometimes with cookies on the side. Dinner often included pasta with sweetened tomato sauce, and she loved her nightly treat of ice cream. To Lorraine, these were small indulgences, deserved comforts, but her body was paying the price. Refined carbohydrates and added sugars are like mischievous saboteurs in the body. They slip in quietly, almost unnoticed, and stir up chaos. Imagine your bloodstream as a calm river. When you eat whole foods rich in fiber, that river flows gently, carrying nutrients steadily to every cell. But when you load your plate with white bread, pasta, pastries, or sodas, it's like opening a dam and letting a flood rush through. Blood sugar spikes rapidly, and with it, your body scrambles to respond. This rapid rise and fall doesn't just leave you tired and cranky, it sparks inflammation. Each sugar surge calls in those same inflammatory messengers, cytokines, that aggravate arthritis and worsen joint swelling. And sugar's mischief doesn't stop there. When glucose levels stay high, it binds to proteins in your body and forms compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. Think of AGEs as sticky residue building up on the hinges of that same door we talked about earlier. Instead of moving freely, your joints start catching, grinding, resisting motion. Over time, that sticky buildup damages cartilage and collagen, the very tissues you depend on for smooth, pain-free movement. Science confirms what Lorraine was experiencing. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that diets high in refined carbohydrates and added sugars were directly linked to increased inflammatory markers in the blood. People who cut back saw measurable drops in those markers, along with improvements in how they felt day to day. In other words, the connection between sugar and swollen joints isn't just theory, it's reality. Now, here's where many people feel overwhelmed. Sugar is everywhere. It hides not only in desserts, but in places you'd never expect. Salad dressings, pasta sauces, flavored yogurts, even so-called healthy granola bars. That's why awareness is your first tool of empowerment. When you begin reading labels, you'll notice just how often sugar sneaks in. And once you see it, you can begin to make changes. For Lorraine, the journey began with swaps that felt manageable. She traded her morning muffin for steel-cut oats, topped with fresh berries and a sprinkle of cinnamon. Instead of white bread, she tried hearty whole grain bread with avocado. In the evenings, she replaced her nightly bowl of ice cream with frozen berries drizzled with a little dark chocolate. These weren't punishments. They were delicious discoveries that also gave her joints a chance to breathe. What's remarkable is how adaptable the human body is. Over time, as Lorraine reduced sugar, her taste buds recalibrated. Foods that once seemed normal now tasted excessively sweet. She laughed one day in my office when she told me, "Doc, I had a sip of soda after months without it, and it was like drinking syrup. I couldn't believe I ever loved it." The benefits reached far beyond her joints. She noticed steadier energy throughout the day, fewer afternoon crashes, and even better sleep at night. Her skin looked clearer, her mood brighter, and the greatest joy of all, she could once again bake with her grandkids. Only this time, they experimented with healthier recipes together, like oatmeal cookies with bananas and raisins instead of refined sugar. It became a new tradition, one that strengthened her bonds with family while protecting her health. Here's something I want you to remember. Removing refined carbs and sugar isn't about restriction. It's about freedom. Freedom from the unpredictable roller coaster of blood sugar, highs and crashes. Freedom from the swelling that robs you of writing, cooking, or gardening. Freedom to wake up in the morning and feel light instead of burden. So when you look at that slice of white bread or that can of soda, pause and ask yourself, is this giving me joy only for a moment, but stealing my comfort for the rest of the day? Because your joints deserve kindness, and kindness often looks like whole grains, fresh fruit, and natural foods that bring sweetness without sabotage. Lorraine discovered that food could either be a thief or a healer, and when she chose healing, her joints responded with gratitude. Yours can too. I'll never forget Charles, a 63-year-old former mechanic who came to see me with a heavy heart. He loved to work on old cars, but his arthritis had grown so severe that turning a wrench became torture. He confessed something to me during our first consultation. "Doc, I know I eat too much fast food, but I'm tired at the end of the day, and it's just so easy." His honesty broke my heart because Charles wasn't lazy. He was exhausted. And like so many people, he leaned on fried and fast foods for convenience, comfort, and familiarity, not realizing they were quietly making his pain worse. Fried and fast foods are seductive. The golden crunch of French fries, the juicy bite of fried chicken, the comforting salt of a burger. It's engineered to delight. But inside the body, these foods act like tiny saboteurs, planting seeds of inflammation that grow into daily stiffness and swelling. Imagine pouring cheap corrosive oil into your car engine. At first it still runs, but over time the buildup erodes the parts, making every motion harder. That's exactly what happens in your joints when fast food becomes the fuel. Here's why. Most fried foods are cooked in oils rich in omega-6 fatty acids. Now, omega-6 isn't inherently bad. Your body actually needs a little, but balance is everything. You also need omega-3s, the fats found in salmon, walnuts, and flax, which calm inflammation. The trouble is, fast food tips the scale. Omega-6 floods the system, drowning out omega-3 and pushing your body into a state of chronic inflammation. And where does that inflammation like to settle? In the very joints that already hurt the most. Then there are trans fats, the artificial fats often used to extend shelf life and enhance texture. Think of trans fats as imposters. Your body doesn't quite know what to do with them, so they linger, clogging arteries, raising bad cholesterol, and turning up the inflammatory heat. Multiple studies, including one published in the New England Journal of Medicine, have linked trans fats directly to increased inflammation and cardiovascular risk. For someone already living with arthritis, they're like gasoline poured onto an already smoldering fire. And let's not forget sodium. Fast food meals are notorious for their salt content, often delivering far more than your body needs in a single sitting. Sodium causes your body to retain water, which may sound harmless, but for swollen joints, it's like pouring cement into already tight spaces. That extra fluid increases pressure, stiffness, and discomfort, turning every step into a chore. The real danger is that fast food is rarely just one problem at a time. It's a perfect storm. Refined carbs in the white buns, added sugars in the sauces, unhealthy oils in the frying, and chemical additives for preservation. Each bite layers inflammation on top of inflammation, and suddenly you're living in a body that feels heavier, slower, and more painful than it should. But here's the hopeful truth. Even small changes can turn the tide. I encourage Charles to experiment with alternatives, not to give up flavor, but to rediscover it in a way his joints could appreciate. Instead of drive-through fries, he learned to slice sweet potatoes, toss them in olive oil with a sprinkle of turmeric, and roast them in the oven. The crunch was there, the comfort was there, but the inflammation was not. When he craved something crispy, an air fryer became his best friend, creating chicken tenders with whole grain breading and avocado oil. Meal prepping became another lifeline. On Sundays, he would prepare simple but nourishing dishes, quinoa bowls with grilled vegetables, lentil soups, wraps filled with hummus and greens. These meals were ready in minutes during the week, as quick as a drive-through, but infinitely kinder to his joints. The shift wasn't only physical, it was emotional. Charles once told me, "I used to think fast food gave me comfort, but I realize now real comfort is being able to move without wincing." That statement has stayed with me. Comfort isn't the crunch of fries or the salt of a burger. True comfort is waking up without swollen hands. It's bending down to tie your shoes without groaning. It's walking to the park with your grandchild and keeping up. And if you do find yourself in a pinch, caught between hunger and a fast food sign, remember you still have choices. Choose grilled instead of fried. Opt for water instead of soda. Skip the fries and ask for extra vegetables or a side salad. These may seem like small victories, but to your joints, they are acts of generosity. Charles didn't give up fast food overnight. He started by cutting back once a week, then twice. Within 3 months, he noticed less morning stiffness, and he could once again spend hours tinkering with engines, his favorite pastime. His joints weren't perfect, but they were freer, lighter, more forgiving, and that to him was worth every swap. So the next time you're drawn to the glow of a drive-through sign, pause. Ask yourself, is this momentary convenience worth tomorrow's pain? Remember, every bite is a vote for the kind of life you want to live. Fried and fast foods may promise comfort, but they steal it in the long run. And you, my friend, deserve comfort that lasts. If there's one thing I hope you carry with you, it's this. Arthritis pain is not only about age or wear and tear, it's about the choices we make every day at the table. Processed meats, refined carbs, and fried fast foods all have one thing in common. They whisper comfort but deliver inflammation. Yet every small swap, every thoughtful choice is a step toward less swelling, more freedom, and a brighter tomorrow. You are not powerless. You are in charge of your plate, and your plate can help heal you. I'm Dr. Brian. Thank you for watching.